All right, the facilitator is coming up in a moment. We're just trying to make sure that the online recording is on so that we don't lose the record. All right. Right. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, participants. Good afternoon to you all. Please don't mind the part of our voice. Having a bad voice this time around. Okay, we're going to talk about training methodology or training methods. Now, in the course of this workshop, we'll be taught on how to develop curriculum, and it is assumed that in curriculum development or in proposal development, curriculum is part of it. Now, the proposal which you send out as a marketing tool for the program is considered basically okay. Now, basically, your proposal sells probably because of how enriching your content is, and also how it tends to address the gap, the identified gap, and of course, how you're going to deliver the training. These are the considerations for picking or for selecting your proposal. How are you going to deliver this training program? That's the question. To me, my response would be how I'm going to use methodologies, various methodologies to deliver the program. That is a simple answer. Now you should begin to look at various areas, various training methods, you can bring in to ensure that you have effective delivery. What I mean by effective delivery is that learning takes place. Now, predominantly, we'll be using lecture method. Facilitators, a large number of facilitators all over the world use lecture. Yes, lecture is good. Lecture method is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But then, in an adult learning class, in an adult learning situation, there is this tendency for adults to lose interest at a particular time when that lecture is continually used in the delivery. Now, it's advisable that you have a mix of methodologies. You can combine that lecture method because you cannot run away completely from lecture method. Combine lecture with other methods. For example, we have case study, we have games, we have role play, we have discussion and brainstorming, which is part of the exercise we did last time. We use discussion and brainstorming. We use that. Now, lecture is effective, but there are other methods that are more effective than lecture method. Okay, now let's look at our training lecture objectives. So at the end of this session, participants will be able to, one, identify various training methods. Okay. We're saying that at the end of this session, participants, you and I, will be able to identify various training methods. Be able to identify various training methods. There are a lot of them. They'll be able to determine the impact of the application of these training methods to learning. What are the impacts of these training methods when they are applied in learning? We'll be able to see that. We'll be able to discuss the importance of combining methodologies during training delivery. We'll see the impacts of combining, the importance of combining these methodologies during training delivery. For example, using lecture and role play, what is the impact it's going to create in the mind, the learners? What's the impact it's going to have in the learners? Excuse me. Now, say imparting knowledge, abilities, skills, or attitude. That's CASAs. Knowledge, abilities, skills, and attitude to participants involves a process governed by certain strategies. Imparting knowledge, abilities, skills, or attitudes to participants involves a process governed by certain strategies. Now, these strategies for imparting knowledge, abilities, skills, and attitudes are the training methods. The strategies we define in bullet number 1, or we're talking about, or we're referring to. Bullet number 1 is training methods. It is that training method that will help us deliver effective learning. It is that training method that will help us gather the interest to synergize, bring together the interest of all the learners, just for the purpose of learning. So each training method is applied during training delivery on the basis of their context suitability. What do I mean by that? Context suitability. That if it's a training on, for example, communication skills, that we expected to use a method that will be able to deliver that session effectively on communication skills. Then perhaps we'll look at sessions on maybe role play. Role play can deliver it with lecture. You can role play that and you see the impact. You can also have games played and you see the impact. But maybe if you have lecture or two or discussion brainstorming, you might not have as much impact as you may have when you use these other two methods with lecture method. So you must have to find a way to determine the suitability of that method, whether it falls within the context through which you want to express yourself. As a trainer, you are expected to do what? Make a selection of the learning method or the training method, basically on the principle of context suitability. Now you look at the context, what you're going to offer to the participants. Ask yourself, this methodology I'm going to apply, would it be able to deliver? Would it be able to make the impact? The supposed impact I want to make? These are the questions you should come up with. If you're able to answer them positively, then you now go ahead to use the method. Okay? Now, however, the effectiveness of every training program depends largely on the suitability of delivery methodology. Now, just have to say this, that one of the things that makes training or learning effective is the methodology you apply in delivering that training. Now, if it's a training workshop that basically there was no group work, no exercise, no role play, no games, and no case study, brought in to deliver some of these sessions, and it's only purely lecture through. If we know that within a short time, participants will be feeling weary and boredom will set. And as much as they get bored, they tend to lose interest. And since they lose interest, your mind is far away from the class. Yes, they're in the class physically, but their mind is in their business area. Some are in the market. Even to be the women, they are thinking of the soup to prepare. Or that they're going to the market. Their mind is in the market, wallowing in the market. The men, their minds are in the business, their business areas, counting dollars, counting the money they would have made on that day. Thinking, forget about what is being delivered in the class. So to make learning stick, to bring back their mind, you have to use a combination of this methodology. That's a mix of this methodology. Lecture, role play, it can go. Lecture, case study, it can go. So the activities that will make them concentrate in the class without losing interest. So methodologies help a lot, and largely the social development program depends on the kind of and the type of methodologies you use. One of one of the critical factors for selecting a particular training method during delivery is context suitability. You must check if that method will be able to deliver the message. If that method you're going to apply, you will be able to do what? Deliver. You'll be able to deliver the message to the participant. So that is one thing you should check. Then learning first when an unsuitable and inappropriate training method is selected during training. If you choose an unsuitable learning method or inappropriate learning method or a method that is out of context, then learning will fail. That's why you begin to see learning failing. Yeah. Any issue? Hello. Yeah, we are receiving a call back here. Okay, thank you. That's better. Now, training defined. We try to define training so that we can keep in picture of what we are looking at. Now, training is defined as a systematic development of knowledge, skills, and attitudes required by an individual to perform adequately on a given task or job. Training can also be defined as a planned process to modify attitude, behavior, knowledge, or skill through learning experience to achieve effective performance in an activity or range of activities. Now, training performs all of these functions. Training can modify attitude, training can modify behaviors, can change knowledge or equip knowledge and skills. So training does all of this. So training is change. Training brings about change in attitude, change in behavior, change in knowledge level and skill. So, and if this training does all of this, then we must deliver this training in the most appropriate way. So we must choose the right delivery method to be able to deliver this training so that we will see the impact. Okay. Now let's talk briefly about the concept of training. The purpose of training in the work situation is to develop the abilities of the individual and to satisfy current and future manpower needs of the organization. Yeah. The purpose of training in the workplace is foremost to develop the abilities of individuals, our employees. Yes, of course, we've realized that there's some gap. There's some gap, knowledge gap, skill gap in terms of attitude. There's some gap. And we want to do what? We want to develop those areas. We want to fill up that gap. And then we'll go ahead to do that. And we can do that with training. Either we want to use that gap, that's those areas of skill, knowledge, attitude, for today's activity, or even reserve it for the future. You can begin to groom your employees for the future use, future manpower things. You can do that. But foremost in our minds, what will help you in delivering effective learning is what the methodologies. The methodologies are very, very concrete to addressing this challenge. You can begin to talk from now to tomorrow without achieving anything. Without achieving anything. In as much as you will not be able to apply a mix of this methodology. And that's why in today's training, in the globe today, the world today, facilitators begin to have a look at mixing methodologies, beginning lecture and other methods, because lecture is one thing you cannot run away from. Okay, and it clearly implies that the role of training is to improve the overall performance of the organization. Yes, and the term performance is therefore interwoven with training. So you cannot do without training. If the focus is on performance, what will actually activate the performance is training. If you have the competency through training, you have the ability through training, then they can perform. If these things are lacking, then they cannot. So you cannot separate the two of them. Okay. Now let's look at the model of systematic approach to training. We call it SAT, systematic approach to training. So we have the organization's M at the top. You see the organization's M at the top. Then pointing, see an arrow, pointing to analyzing training needs. Yeah, the organization basically focusing on the training needs of the employees, training needs of our staff. Then that training need is done. Then certain learning, certain aims and objectives is taught in the next phase. Then after that, the next phase is designing training strategy. What are those training strategies we are talking about? The training strategies include the methodologies, designing training program, designing the training program, which the methodology is part of. Then we have implementing training strategy. Now you begin to implement the training. After that, then you will now validate. How do you validate? You evaluate the training to ensure that actually the objectives you listed, the objectives you set before foremost is actually what you meant. You've actually been able to address those objectives. So the validation will give you a report on whether the aims, the objectives have been met or not. That is it. This is a typical training cycle in another model. Okay, now let's look at this. This training process or training cycle. This is not. Okay, this is training process or training cycle. Now here you can see identify training needs. At the first level, you identify training needs. When training needs have been identified, then you set training objectives. Then after setting training objectives, you plan the training. What do you mean by planning the training? That you design the training program, you design the proposal, you design the methodologies you are going to follow, design all the objectives, so that everything is there. You plan the training. Now, from the planning, you have developed some strategies through which you are going to fulfill your mandate, through which you are going to deliver that training. Those strategies include the methodologies, and which we are talking about today, because that's our own focus as of now. The methodologies is what will help you to deliver an effective training. Now you implement training. In the course of implementing training, then you begin to do what? Unleash these methodologies. Use these methodologies to deliver training. And if they are appropriately utilized, then learning will take place. If they are not appropriately utilized, learning will fail. Then you evaluate results, then review and analyze. When you evaluate results, at the end of the day, you'll be able to ask yourself, have I been able to achieve the objectives for this training? Those gaps have been identified. Have I been able to close those gaps through this training? Have I been able to measure up, close that gap through this training? Has this training been able to afford us the opportunity to close this gap of performance? Gap of performance. Have we been able to close it? In terms of every aspect of our life, performance, poor performance on our duties, lack of communication, interpersonal relationship, all of these things, there are gaps existing there. So I'm able to close them through this training. If that is properly answered, then a report is made, and that's why you see you need to do a review and analyze the evaluation. When you review the evaluation and analyze the situation also, you'll be able to have a good report on how the training has felt. So this is a typical training cycle in another model. So number one is identifying training needs, setting training objectives, planning training, which is our focus. Because in that planning training, we have the training methodologies. Okay. Now, let's define training methodologies. Now, by 2004, according to Untitled Chapter, my boss would allow me to press as well. I just foresee myself, yes. Yes. We define it as the methods or activities that a trainer or instructor, a trainer can also be referred to as an instructor, employs as a medium to convey knowledge, experience, or information to the participants in order to facilitate their learning, which might lead them to change their working behavior and attitudes. So the emphasis is on the methodology, on the method, the methods or activities that a trainer or instructor employs. Emphasis is on the methods, that training method that the trainer or instructor employs to ensure that the information he has is passed across to the participants, to the learners, that they learn, and then there's a change in them, change in attitude, change in behavior. That medium through which this change is realized is what we are looking at, and that's the methodology. What methodology? Every methodology cannot serve the same purpose. Every methodology has a purpose for which it can serve, where you apply it and it will work, and where you will not apply it, it will not work. So you must have to find a way which is the best methodology to be applied in a certain situation. For example, if we have a communication as a session, communication skills to deliver as a session, and you begin to think about GAN's method, you can use GAN's method to deliver the training. You can use role play to deliver the training. Now, if you also use case study, if you use case study, you can address that to an extent, but then you have to bring a case where communication failed somewhere, and then how do we able to revitalize that communication? Then, so that people or the participants will learn from that, and then begin to look at way to internalize that, so that they will learn actually. Now, in the case situation, more especially in the legal sector, I mean, judiciary, we have those issues. Go to court, you see judge, making references to cases that have been held in the courts some years ago, how it was addressed. They use it to judge, take their position on a present case situation in the court they're handling. So the case study is a very good material for reference, and you can use it, a participant can use it to learn and to make decisions by informed nature. Okay, let's look at the training methodologies or the training methods. We have the lecture method. Lecture method is widely used, but research has shown that it is not much of effectiveness when it's continuously used, that you have to combine lecture with other methods to make learning effective. And we have the lecture method, we have discussion and brainstorming method. The discussion and brainstorming method was actually the one you did last one, where we broke into groups. We have group 1, group 2, group 3. When you gave us, responses in terms of the pre-program activities, the during program activities, and the post-program activities. Those are the sessions, discussion and brainstorming sessions that we had. So that was actually for the methodology. And you can see how impactful it is, because everybody would engage Everybody will have to make 1 or 2 contributions because we are working in a group. So you break into groups and they have that discussion and brainstorming activity. We also have a kind of syndicate sessions. The syndicate session is actually required for discussion. When you break into syndicate units, you go in and you have discussion brainstorming. That's where we syndicate sessions. Sometimes you often hear the National Assembly telling you that they broke into syndicate sessions. They went to session committee of this, of finance went into session this. That is syndicate session. They go there to deliberate, to brainstorm on a particular issue and come out with a proposal, come out with a resolution that this is what we're going to do, this is the way forward for this. So syndicate sessions offer such, and it is discussion and brainstorming method that addresses this syndicate session. Now we have the case method. I've said it, a case method is where you begin to look at references, refer to cases that have happened previously, issues that happened previously, how they were managed, how they were treated, how they were solved, how those problems were solved. You borrow a lead from it and they basically bring it down and then use the same method, the same pattern to apply it to see whether it will work. That is case method. Borrowing a reference, making a reference from a previous issue, a problem solving activity, then you are now using to solve a current problem. That's case method. The role play method, the situation whereby you give room for participation of the participants. They get involved in the enactment of roles. Sometimes people confuse it with film, video. They say, is it something as movie? No, it looks like movie, but it's not movie, different from movie. Movie, the difference between role play and movie is that role play is always short and brief. It doesn't last beyond 15 minutes. According to some authors, it shouldn't last beyond 15 minutes. But in movies, it has movies that last up to 2 hours, 3 hours. In movies, they don't debrief. But in role play, there must be debrief. If you do any role play, if you enact a role play without debriefing, what it means that you've actually acted a movie. So you must debrief at the end of the day. Even in case study, you must debrief. You must debrief. So then guess method is the next and the last. The guess method is a fun making game. You bet. Inside the fun, while building up the fun, while making the fun, there are a lot of lessons to learn from them. Use a particular situation, just also like role play, similar somehow to role play. Yes, while acting out the game, while playing the game, you discover that lessons are being learned. You draw lessons you can use to solve a particular problem. You know, for example, I may decide to come here to have a session on team building. On team building session, I may decide not to come here to discuss team building using lecture method. I may come with an activity on games. What I need to do, I put all of us in a group. We have for group 1, group 2, group 3. Just like we have, and then we blindfold one member of each group. We blindfold one member of each group and set obstacles along the path. Use chairs or table to set obstacles so as the member that is blindfolded for each group, when his team members are leading him, they have to give him sign. They will not speak out. They will not give him oral communication, no verbal communication. They will be giving, they will decide on the sign they will give him that will tell him, move to the right, move to the left, dodge, go back, and don't go front. They know the signs to use. So they use sign language to communicate to him so that he will understand. So if eventually at the end of the day, he does not fall within the obstacles, he does not allow himself to be, he does not go the other way around. He passed through the meandering process till he got to the last point. then the team, that particular group have won the contest. But if in the other way, no, they were not able to pass through the very, narrow paths, wasn't able to pass through that very narrow paths, and they got stopped on the way, then they fled the contest. So GAME method has a lot to offer. Number one, it has to offer, through GAME method, you learn about communication. For example, this one I just described now, learn about communication. How do we communicate? Communication mustn't always be verbal. You can communicate by sign, giving out signs, making sounds. Somebody will understand. So you can actually communicate in that way. Then when you play a team role, to support the one that is blindfolded, your colleague that is blindfolded, that does not see what is happening within the environment because he has been blindfolded. Now, when you play that supportive role and you win the contest, so it's a team effort, then you won the contest. So GAME method offers a lot, Roleplay offers a lot, Methodology offers a lot. All of them has much to offer. And therefore, we require that every one of us, the facilitator, must make use of this. They are there not just for the fun's sake, but the idea that we will make use of them. And that is why internationally, globally, facilitators, trainers are beginning to have a mix, a blend of all these methodologies. You can combine lecture method with case study, lecture with role play, lecture with discussion, brainstorming method, lecture with GAME method, even lecture with simulation. Although in this type of our training, simulation is not required. You can actually have a simulating class or a simulation method when you are maybe in the aeronautic field or in the oil and gas industry. Make use of this simulation. So in the aeronautic field, where the pilots, after the educational program, they now come to another phase of learning how to do what? To pilot the aircraft. So they allow them to enter into the simulator, and inside the simulator, it's on, it begins to vibrate, and then they have a feeling that the simulator has gone up, and they begin to look, wow, I'm going to crash, airport is going to crash. So without knowing that they are still at a fixed on the ground. So it's there for them to be pressing the buttons to dodge the air waves and all these things. So that is the simulator for you. That's what the simulator does. But which is different from the ones we're talking about. We're so much concerned about this role play and all this. Then we have also the use of exercises. You can actually give exercises to your participants to get the best out of the challenging situation. For example, there's a program. For example, there's an issue, an assignment to give them. You want them to come up with the best opinion or the best option, then you give them. That is an exercise you're giving them. And then you allow them sometimes to deliberate about that assignment in groups, share them in groups, and then give them time to deliberate and brainstorm and come back with the best option. And that's why we put this here. You have discussion and brainstorming method, because discussion and brainstorming method takes care of that exercise. Okay. But I have explained all of these things here. Okay. Now, the main factors affecting the choice of training methods. The main factors affecting the choice of training methods. We have the human factor, the subject area, the objectives, the time and material factors, principles of learning. In the human factor, we have the teacher or the trainer, and looking at the face of the participants, you see that the trainer should be interested in the choice of the training method. Sometimes the trainers find it so difficult to develop role play, to develop case studies, to develop games of their own, because you can actually write role play. You can actually develop and write role play that is suitable for your particular class. You can actually do that. So because you find it so difficult to do, some of us will be leveraging on the opportunity that the Western world do some of these exercises, role plays, and then send them online and we download and use them in class. No, or do something similar to that. No, we can begin to think about our own. How do we domesticate our own learning here to suit our own purpose? Begin to think about that, develop our own role play, and then write out the rules so that we can do it in class. Some of the facilitators, trainers find it difficult to do. And that's why they continuously go on lecturing, which is not the best. Then you have here the objectives, because you look at the methodologies, see what and where the touches. All of these methodologies we've discussed. For example, we talked about the domains of learning, the 3 domains of learning. We have what? The affective domain, isn't it? Hello? Yes, we have the affective domain, psychomotor and what? Cognitive. So all of these methodologies have a way of touching to these domains. Now, if you are carrying out a role play, what you are doing actually without knowing is letting the participants be involved. If the participants are involved in the act of doing it, then that lasting memory stinks in their memory, in their brain, and they will not forget that. They will not forget that role play. Even in the next 5-10 years, they will still remember, oh, we did this role play. At least that will be something they can take home. But that, if not for any other thing, they can take that one home. Any lesson from that place. So this methodology touches all of these domains. So each of them have a way touching to the domains, both the affective domain, psychomotive domain, and the what? Cognitive domain. So that's why we continuously be using it. Lecture alone might not be that effective because they are not engaged in any act of doing. They are not engaged in any act of doing. They are just there to learn, listening to you. But when they are involved in act of doing, you give them an exercise. There's a group activity they engage in. They will learn through it, they learn faster, and they learn it skills because they are involved. They don't depend on you for the solution, but they are the one producing the solution. So it gives them an opportunity to be part of that. Okay. Now, we'll also talk about the subject area. Most facilitators have scanty knowledge of this, and therefore they see this methodology as a waste of time. Some of them see it as something that's giving them a problem, so they don't want to get involved. And of course, the time and material factors also in the consideration. Then the principles of learning, which we talked about now. The adult learning, that you don't keep an adult in a class using lecture or at the particular time, he will tend to lose interest. And when he loses interest, then that will be the end of the challenge for him that day. So you have to look for an exercise, an activity that will get him back to the class. And it's through these methodologies that you can bring in these activities. You can break a syndicate session where he will be involved in bringing a solution to a particular through discussion and brainstorming. You can get involved in the art of role-playing games and the case studies. So all of this will be used. When you use it, you see that there will be effective learning. Now, main factors affecting the choice of training methods. Training is designed to achieve the objectives formulated, and appropriate training methods should be adopted to achieve the objectives effectively. Now, it is unfair for you as an individual who have designed a proposal, and then in the methodology, you say various methodologies will be used, such as role play, case study, in the delivery of those sessions in your content. And at the end of the day, when the job was offered to you, you could not even use any of those methodologies highlighted in your proposal. It is not fair. What it means that you've done what? You've cheated your participants. They may not be able to do what? Learn through that. And that is why, after designing your content, you now think which methodology will fit in for the delivery of this content, which methodology will be best used so that learning takes place. Now, when you now take a look at that, you have something in communication skill there. That's okay, guess will be used. Then methodology, you put guess method. Then you have something on gender-based violence. Gender-based violence. It's okay. Since I have something on gender-based violence, then Roleplay can deliver that session effectively. Then you have something like interpersonal relationship. Okay, you say, okay, girls can actually address that, or Roleplay can actually address that. Yes, you state Roleplay and case study, and that's how we arrive at these methodologies. You don't just begin to state methodologies that you will know too well that you will not ever apply them during delivery. No, the delivery of those sessions must specifically be on those methodologies you stated in the proposal. You must ensure that you utilize those delivery, and you must make sure that the right choice is made. Now, the training objectives and the outcome, which are sought to be achieved, determines the choice of training method. Now, that's what I've said now. The training objectives and the outcome we are looking at. What we are looking at the end of the training, participants will be able to do what? Did this, be this, be that, be that. That gap you identify right from the first day when you carried out the training need assessment. At the end of the day, that gap would have been able to do what? I would have been able to, that training would have been able to close that gap. Now, that is the outcome. That is what we are looking at. Now, after closing the gap, for example, if it's somebody that would not be able to use computer to work, now this person, after returning from training, he can now use computer set effectively. That means the gap has been closed. That performance gap has been closed. Now, that is the outcome. The outcome here is that this fellow has been able to use computer. That is the outcome, and it has been achieved. Now, what determines this outcome greatly lies on the methodology you used. For example, if it's an ICT training program and all they do there is lecturing, the person will come back home and will come back to the office achieving nothing. But because it's something that requires a practical demonstration, then he or she has to be put through practical demonstration of those things. He has to use laptop, computers. He must use computer to demonstrate those things that have been taught in the class, so that the trainer or the facilitator will go around and monitor whether he has been able to do that or not. And that will be at the end of the day what will now give a concern whether those objectives have been those set initiatives have been met or not. So it's not about listing the objective, the methodologies there. It's about ensuring that those methodologies are applied to the list. You can't do a computer training without the act of doing, demonstration, exercises, doing. It's not okay. In fact, talking is less required in that area than practical demonstration. So practical demonstration should be one of the methodologies. So if I am designing a proposal there, demonstration. And if I am a training manager and I see that proposal coming to you, I'm a training manager of my company, and you are sending that proposal to me, to send my staff for short training. And I see two proposals. One, the methodology says that practical demonstration will be used in the course of carrying out this ICT training. And another one says lecture method. Which one do you think I will choose? I will choose that one that says practical demonstration, because they have to practicalize what they have learned or what they have learned in the class. They have to do it. Have a practical session there. I will not choose the one that says lecture. What are they lecturing for? Somebody who does not know how to use computer system and you're lecturing him on how to use the computer system. What would that information be to him? But if you show him, if you hold control button and A, that it is what? Or C, that is copy. I ask him to do it and he does it, and then he has copied it. I see that actually the thing has worked. That is true. That information has sink in his memory. It will sink his memory and it will last forever in that memory. But if you keep telling him theories, giving him theories, he will not understand anything. You're just lecturing. So the effectiveness of these methodologies is badly lies in the outcome. You see it there. That this is why training fails. When organizations send their staff for training, at the end of the day, they demand the same, because the right methodologies have not been used, or the good facilitators have not actually done their work, or the training objectives have not actually been identified. Also, the training needs have not actually been identified. So these are the reasons. Okay. Main factors affecting, okay, we are sitting there. For example, if the objective is to develop technical skill, then there is need for practical exercises. That's part of what I have said now. If one of the objectives is to develop technical skill, for example, computer training is a technical skill, then there must be need for practical exercise. There's no two ways about it. If I don't see that practical exercise as a training manager in my company and you're sending a proposal, I will not honor your proposal. I will not honor it. But the one I say practical exercise, because I know there's no way you will learn computer without practically demonstrating it. I know that. So when you don't include that in your methodologies, I will not sign it. And these are the factors that, sometimes people need to, query. Why I sent my proposal and they didn't consider my own. They did IM. Mr. B sent his own and they considered his own and they took it. That's not like IM. You did not do the right thing. You did not do the right thing. When you've done the right thing, you see that your proposal will be selected because you fail to address the issues of the methodologies. These are the issues in need. You cannot do a training that has to do with technical skills without practically exercising or demonstrating that skill. It's not possible. So when you use lecture, you say the lecture method, I will lecture you. Well, are you a lecturer? You cannot achieve any results. But if you go down to study that practical exercises, if I see number one, I will select that one, number one, I'll bring it out. That's number one proposal. And then begin to look at the others. Or look at other ones. Now, if conceptual skill, then case study could be a method. If it's something that has to do with concept, that we look at how they deliver this result somewhere, how this problem was solved somewhere, what concept did they follow? Then I can look at case study, applying case study in solving that problem. So case study will do that to address that situation. If it's something that has to understand the concepts and understand how that problem was tackled, I leave it on case study. And that is why in the legal profession, the judiciary today, courts will see judges, making reference to previous judgments on a particular matter that resembles your own issue. They'll make reference to that and use it to do what? To adjudicate on your matter, on your case. They'll begin to tell you, Orlando and Co. and versus Nigerian Customs, in 1983. The case was something similar to this, and it was delivered by this, and look at how they did. From that is case study. They are using that case to do what? Solve the current situation. That's the case study for you. And you have to study it carefully. So for conceptual skills, you need case study. Now, if now orientation is intended, then role play is an appropriate method. You want to change attitude, you want to change the orientation of a staff or an employee, role play. You can actually use role play. If somebody has some kind of, interpersonal relationship, it does not want the cooperation of others, you can use role play to enact something similar to that, without necessarily exposing that person to that kind of thing. But that's something like that, and people then, that person in the class will see that maybe I have not been doing well. I need to sit up. I need to encourage interpersonal relationship. So these are the things role play does. Okay. Now, criteria for choosing a training method. You talk about context suitability. The method you are bringing in, does it fall squarely into the context? That method you are bringing in, be it role play, case study, guest method, discussion, brainstorming nature, does it address this situation? Now, offer opportunity for learning. Does it offer opportunity for learning? Can we learn something after the enactment of the role play, after the enactment of the game? Or can we learn something after what? Using that case? The level of interaction, can it actually increase the level of interaction so that we can learn individually as a group? Can it offer that high level of interaction? That's the question you ask. Participants' willingness, are participants willing to take this exercise, to actually get involved with this methodology? Are they willing? You want to use role play, are they willing to accept roles, to enact those roles so that at the end of the day, we'll debrief? And then we need time demands. Do you have time to do that role play? Do you have time for that case study? Do you have time to do this? These are the criteria we check using these methods. Then the learning environment. How good is the learning environment? Does it accept enacting this role play or this case study? Assuming we are in a very small environment where we cannot be able to, enact role play and want to enact role play. The environment has constrained us not to be able to do what we enact that role play. So we have to consider the environment. Then training presence, the trainer presence. Will the trainer's presence be of any effect to us, be it negative or positive? If yes, positive, then the trainer must be there. I don't think the trainer's absence can be of a good, impact to the participants' learning ability. No. So you need the trainer to be there. The trainer must be there to do what, provide guidelines on how the role play will be acted, or how the case should be, studied, or how the games should be enacted. The presence of the trainer is highly needed. Then what of the cost consideration? The cost. Taking that methodology, does it require any cost or any extra cost? Do we need to provide some kind of instructional materials? Do we need to purchase all of this? For example, we are to enact a role play of blindfolding. What it means that you will have to buy a roll of handkerchief so that you use it to blindfold people to be able to do that role play. So it requires cost. Sometimes these are the things that will make facilitators run away from it. If the coordinators or the program, consultants that own the program cannot be able to provide these things, as we shy away from using these methodologies. Okay, let's look at the reasons for the use of methodologies during training. As earlier noted, the various methodologies address the concern of the 3 domains of learning. We talked about that. It makes learning practical and demonstrated. Yes, it makes learning practical and demonstrated. It makes learning stick to memory. It helps to eliminate boredom during learning. All of these methodologies help to, when combined in the appropriate way, helps to eliminate boredom. Nobody will be bored. You'll be active to the last moment. Okay. Then, and I think we have to sign off from here. Any question so far? Any question? Any comments? I can see there are some messages. Yeah, please let's start filling the form, okay? Teamwork. Mr. Okay, Lara says teamwork, yeah, very good. Can we do class activity to give facilitator a break, please? That is from Lara. Thank you so much. Well done, sir. Thank you so much. Don't worry, I lost my voice yesterday. I just tried to manage it. Thank you. Pastor Ifama, thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about your voice. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for showing concern. Okay, I think that's the comments we have so far in the chat room. Yeah, so any other comments? I'm just trying to see that I have it all with this demand. Sorry, pardon me for the loss of the voice. Yeah. Any other comments, any question before we finally sign off? We're almost done. We're done already. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, sir, thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Iroro, thank you. Chinedu, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Okay. In the absence of any other questions, so thank you so much. God bless you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But before the facilitator goes, yesterday we had an in-class vote of thanks. Please, can we have someone from the can we have someone online to give us vote of thanks for the lecturer today? Just kindly unmute and let's go ahead.
Okay, if I may do it again, on behalf of all the participants, both online and offline, I want to appreciate our guest speaker, the resource person for today, for the 3 sessions, for a wonderful time. Despite his loss of voice, which eventually affected the last session, I knew law of diminishing return to the voice. However, he was able to manage the voice all through, not minding the stress to ensure delivery. We want to thank you very much. The facilitation was interesting and superb with visual aids. I want to say thank you very much. And to the organizer, IRPM, you are doing a wonderful work. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless.
All right, thank you so much for that vote of thanks. In a moment, we are going to be closing for the day. It has been a wonderful time. So we are going to be closing in a moment. But before we go, please let's be reminded that tomorrow our micro facilitation host tomorrow. So please, everyone should prepare their slides and upload it in the Google Classroom so that we can get to see what you're doing. Tomorrow, everyone will be made a co-host as soon as the facilitation starts. Tomorrow's class will be longer than this because of the micro facilitation. So we still have about 2 courses to round up with, although one has been overflogged. That's training budget development and development of instructional material. The other class on the use of ICT in training, that one will be practical enough. All right, so tomorrow we have to start a little bit earlier, or we have to finish a little bit late. Whatever be the case, we'll finish on time. All right. Okay. that will be all for now. I don't know if there is any question from anybody before we shut down for today. The attendance link is already posted. So please, let's kindly take our attendance before we go. Please, any question for us? IIPM, the support team, any question for us before we? Okay, how do we take some of us into consideration for mosque service tomorrow? Okay, so the break time tomorrow will give you the break time tomorrow will be for mosque. Tomorrow is Friday, so the mosque time I think is from 1 to 2 or 12 to 2, something like that. 1. Okay, some people go by 12. Okay. Okay, so tomorrow's break, we'll put that into consideration. Thank you. Okay, he said 1:30 to 2:30. All right. So we'll put that into consideration. And that means our break will be within that limit. Okay, any other question, any other concern? Any other question, any other concern? Okay, once again, I want to ask, is there anybody here that is not in a group? Because we are going to have a take-home group assignment that we'll use tomorrow for our classes. Anybody who is not in a group? Okay, so if everybody is in a group, group 1, please note your assignment. Your assignment is to prepare a training budget. Please, we do not say proposal or training budget. Only training budget, not training proposal. Group 1, develop a training budget. Okay, develop a training budget. Group. Yes, so each, you're going to give us the cost for each of the items you're going to be giving out in your training budget, all right? Then group 2, you are to develop you're going to use PowerPoint to develop a section on, or develop a material on any section of your choice. Group 2, you are going to use PowerPoint to develop a training session. Group 2, use PowerPoint to develop a slide on any training session of your choice, any topic of your choice. Okay, and then group 3, that is online. Sorry, group 3, that is offline. Group 3, that is offline, you are going to give us the standard for developing instructional materials for training. Standard for developing training instructional materials. So give us all the guidelines we need to have. Group 3, Mr. Jesse and Honorable Femi. So your collaboration starts from where it stops. Okay, I will read through the HR said, you said presentation slides are on any topic of choice, and we have been working on these things. No, as a group, just give us a slide. Okay, so, okay, perhaps, okay, let's make it simple. Group 2, develop a slide on how to use PowerPoint. Group 2, did you hear what I said? Let's make it specific. Develop a slide, use PowerPoint to develop a slide on how to use PowerPoint. Group 2, did you hear my question? Develop a slide on the use of PowerPoint. So you're going to use PowerPoint to develop a slide on how to use PowerPoint. Group 2, did you hear the question? Group 1, you're to develop, okay, so let's make everything one topic. So to develop a training budget, please, sir.
Director of program, we may need to be paid for that service to deliver how to use PowerPoint. So why don't we retain the first question? If we do that one, members of the department will pay our group for for how to use PowerPoint, because that's not part of this.
Okay, it's not part of the group facilitation. However, it's not part of your assignment.
That's a special task.
Okay, because that means those that will be producing training budget, you have to pay them. And maybe those that will be producing guideline on development of instructional material, we pay them also. Okay, I know that's a by the way anyway. Okay, so group 2, group 1, develop. I said we are going to make it universal. So let the topic be that we are working on training on, we are teaching organization on the use of PowerPoint. So group 1, develop a training budget. Let's say we are developing the training budget for IPM facilitators, or the target audience are IPM facilitators. So we are your client. So group 1, training budget on the facilitation of PowerPoint usage for IPM facilitators. Give us the budget. Group 2, we develop the slide. That's on how to use PowerPoint. Then group 3, we develop the standard for development of instructional materials for the use of PowerPoint. So how did you come about that? Any question? Sir, can we review our micro facilitation again as what is expected of us? Okay, we'll put this in the Google Classroom so that everybody can see it. Once again, we notice that there are people that they only come towards the tail end of the class. Well, please note that attendance is a major requirement for certification. There is no exam. Attendance is a major requirement. And if your righteousness is not fulfilled, we will keep our holiness. Okay? If your righteousness is not, there are people that they only joined day 1 or 2. This is day 4, and they are nowhere to be found. Okay, so in case for whatever reason you might not be able to complete this particular program, we'll move you to the next batch. Okay, but all requirements, at least 100% has to be met. Okay, thank you. Yes, that's the standard. At least CMP has said it over and over again. That's the standard. If you were to write exam here, you will write tire, but it has been made simple. Okay, so let's not misuse the opportunity as it comes. Okay, let me see another question there. Is micro facilitation not macro? Micro. Is micro facilitation. Thank you, Molora, for pointing that out. Please, Engineer Rahim, is micro. The time allowable is 5 minutes for each participant. Time allowable, 5 minutes. Micro, not macro. Any other question? Can we call it a day from here? Okay, can we? Okay, if we can shut down for today, please, can you type 00? If you have a question, then ask. If you think we are done and dusted, type 00 so that we can go home now. This is to 4. That's a great one. Oh, the zeros have it. Oh, the zeros have it. So thank you so much. Tomorrow's class, we are starting by 9 a.m. prompt. 9 a.m. prompt. 9 a.m. prompt. So see you tomorrow by 9 a.m. Thank you and have a wonderful time.